we need the autopsy report, that there are real questions about witness accounts. All of that, I think, is fair game. But let's be precise, because a kid is dead here. What's the actual evidence? Not a feeling, not a vibe. What is the evidence that anyone has produced that shows race had anything to do with this?
Well, we can talk about the evidence of what's been going on in America the last 400 years.
Talk about this case. Talk about this case.
Talk about it, but I'm going to talk about it the way I want to talk about it.
There we go. Now you see, folks, you understand what I'm talking about here. Okay. It gets worse, though. Take a look.
Now, if you've asked me to come on to be your guest, and I'm going to talk about it the way I want to talk about it, sir. Now, you asked me a question based on what does race have to do with it. We can talk about Fannie Hamer and what she's talked about in Mississippi being a place of oppression. But as we talk about this case and what's important, if you do not want people to speculate, then investigate. The family, I'm not talking about those online, but the family has that questions be answered. And I would like to ask you, do you have a child?
I do not have a child.
Okay, well, I do. I have a 19-year-old daughter. Also had a cousin who was murdered, who was also a football star, who was murdered at 19. And it took us about a month to find his body. So maybe there's not empathy there from you, sir. I'm not sure.
This has nothing to do with the lack of it.
So you see, let's talk about what she said so far. Do you see how she gets nasty? Nicole, what are your thoughts here?
Right off the top, a stereotype, right? Angry Black. And for whatever reason, her feelings are more valuable than anybody else's feelings. Her lived experience means more than his lived experience. She's not even giving him a chance to ask her a legitimate question. But she's saying what Democrat women always say, stop talking, I'm talking. Stop talking, I'm talking. I'm more important than you. You're just a white man. I'm a Black woman. And regardless of what I'm saying, you're going to be quiet and listen to what I'm saying, and not saying anything the whole time she's saying that. It is just the weirdest thing. And it's probably circa 2025 when they started doing that. And it's getting real tired real fast. Had enough of her already. And she hasn't even spoke one word about what he asked her.
Exactly. Lower than the gum on the bottom of a fiend's bare foot. Okay. She is lower than low. Here we go.
Empathy. You're calling for an investigation. Everyone is there anyone who's saying that there shouldn't be an investigation?
It actually does, because you're jumping to race when the family.
I'm not jumping to race. I didn't hire Ben Crump. I didn't get Reverend Al Sharpton there.
Right. Well, the family is actually asking for questions to be answered. The family is actually wanting to know, why did his friends have his keys? The family's actually wanted to know, why did they have his phone? Why did he leave? Why did he say he wanted to stay on the island by himself? These are all justifiable questions.
Agreed.
And I would have, and maybe if you were a parent, maybe you could empathize with wanting to know exactly.
You keep accusing someone of not showing empathy when I'm simply saying, have you seen even any evidence that suggests the police aren't doing an investigation? I get that there is questions to be answered, right? I mean, that's what they're doing.
There hasn't been an investigation. And just a moment ago,
there hasn't been an investigation?
Just a moment ago, it has not been a thorough investigation. Just a moment ago, when Mr. Thrasher was on, and he made the point to say that he went in the water and never came back, you didn't question him one time, sir, and ask
he's not
him,
part of the investigation.
But you didn't question him one time and ask him, how does he know that he went in the water? So there's a lot of misconception. That's the whole point in having an investigation. And what Attorney Crump is
we are having an investigation, though, correct?
And what that's exactly it. And an independent investigation in addition to what Mississippi has done or not done. And why would you or anybody else have an issue with a family wanting to have an independent investigation?
I don't. I have an issue with people who are maybe paying too close attention to the race element here before they have any of those details, and setting up a narrative that is setting up that family to maybe not accept what actually happened. Again, I have no idea what happened. I'd like to actually wait, at least in part, for some of the details to come out, including an autopsy. You certainly concede an autopsy is important here, correct?
Absolutely. Well, the details are that a young 19-year-old Black young man, that's okay to say, just like you described it and everything else, went off with his all-white friends and did not return, and none of them say they saw anything. So if
Shelley, again, the details she's missing is they were friends. It has nothing to do with race. But she is inserting race into this. She is inserting a racial narrative in this. What are your thoughts, Shelley?
Yeah, her first comments out of her mouth. Well, we can go back 400 years and what's going on with Mississippi. This is the part they're going to bring in. They're going to bring in this big overarching race narrative. They want to talk about image. They want to give the what do you call it? The narrative, if you will, filled with Emmett Till, images, or Medgar Evers images being, Mississippi burning. This is what they're trying to do. This is the backdrop they're trying to paint. Again, I have seen nothing that one of his friends that was on the boat said that no, we've been friends. I'm paraphrasing. I don't know the quote. We've been friends and this wasn't about race, things like that. So we have no evidence to say that this happened due to Nolan's race or the race, quote unquote, of the other boys on that boat. Again, the Teslin, you got to realize Tez, she's just a race hustler too. Okay. Mm-hmm. She latches on to the Al Sharptons, the Ben Crumps, anywhere there is a racial exploitation bent that they can profit off of. There you'll find Teslin in the background behind Ben and Al. Let me say this as well. The same weekend that Nolan died, I think it was the July 4th weekend, you didn't see Ben, Al, nor Teslin in Chicago when multiple people were shot and slaughtered. Or the previous weekend, or any time this year when over 600 people already this year in Chicago. Yep. Most of them Black, most of them murdered, slaughtered, shot by other Black people. Where was Ben, Al, and Tez then? No, they're out lollyfooting, Google-footing, playing around, whatever, waiting for something like this so they can just pounce on and prey and exploit this case.
Absolutely. These folks are mutts. Okay, they're hound mutts, greyhound mutts. All right, they don't look for blood of prey as far as different types of deer or whatever these greyhounds hunt. They look for racial narratives. That's what they're hunting. All right, and so when they smell that racial narrative, if they smell the hint of some way that they can put race or into the narrative, into an issue, they're there. The hounds are out. And this right here, Teslin, all right, she's the bitch hound of the crew. Okay, she's the big bitch that they're looking for. The hound, the racial hound that they sick on these types of stories, looking and hunting for that racial narrative when it's not even there. Not even there. Let's continue here.
You don't want the speculation, then let's use this time to ask his white friends to tell the family what actually happened, because they claim to not know anything. Doesn't sound like something? Doesn't make sense to you? What teenager leaves their phone and stays on an island and doesn't leave with the children that they came with? I believe the West.
Teens never do anything that don't make sense. Every time they do everything is they follow exactly what you as an adult would suggest they do.
Well, you would know because you're not a parent, my love.
Oh, Nicole.
Condescending pieces. Listen, this woman is a whole hot mess, and him having a child or not having a child, irrespective, he used to be a teenager. It's been probably a lot longer than she's been a teenager, but he too has experience with life. Again, this is her lived experience is much more important because she's a Black woman than his as a mere white man living here in the United States.
What's up, everybody? This is Poppin' Politics. Get your merch. Are you a Poppin' Politics fan? Are you unapologetically American? Or not Black, not white American? We got it all for you right here. Get your merch.
Get the classic shirt. Classic. Goes with everything, comes in a variety of colors. Smart, edgy, conservative, like us, like you. This is a great way to support the channel. Click the merch button.
There is no shame in being an American. Get your shirt today and be unapologetic about it. Get your shirt, wear it, and be a proud American. You can get it all in t-shirts and hoodies. You can get it in stickers, on bags. You can get it all on our website, metroconservativemedia.com, or our YouTube page, Pop and Politics, and tag over to store. You can get your merch and show you're proud to be an American and support Pop and Politics.
What's very interesting, though, aside from her condescension, is the fact that she keeps going back to saying these white boys, these white children, white. If we were playing a drinking game and the buzzword was white, everybody on this show would be tore up. Gimpy would have us all pixelated all over the screen. It would be a whole hot mess. But that's her goal. This is what we mean by them layering stuff and keeping the family further away from the truth. I have 19 nephews. You want to tell them, I'll tell you right now, What would separate a teenage boy from his cell phone? A teenage girl that he's chasing. That's what would separate him from his, you know, what else would? Swimming. Nobody's putting their iPhone in the water. That's not going to work. They usually put it in a shoe or a boot or give it to one of their friends when they're swimming. There are lots of fairly reasonable explanations for this, but we have to give the investigation time to come up with those reasonable explanations. Just like I haven't seen the report, she hasn't seen the interrogation of the report. She doesn't know what these kids said. She has no idea. She's speculating. But every time she has something that she wants to get across to you, she couches it between two very racist terms, because here the goal is not to seek truth. The goal is to drive division. And this is precisely what she's doing. And she's being a bitch doing it.
Absolutely. And look, folks, all right, because I see some people in the chat are saying this is about race. We are not necessarily saying it's not, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But the point that we're making is there is no current evidence at all. There have been no reports of a, racially motivated name calling, the racial things in these kids' background. Nothing, zero. There is zero evidence that anything was racially motivated by this. The only thing that is racial are their races. So just because people have interracial relationships does not mean if something bad happens, it is the reason is race. Folks, y'all gotta stop doing this.
Mm-hmm.
You really do.
Absolutely.
You go ahead.
Well, I'm sorry, Kate. And I was going to say, and we're not saying that if the investigation shows that there was some racial animus, we're not saying that that's going to be okay, sweep it under the carpet. We're going to say that whatever those issues are, that means we have to address them. I mean, not just nationally, but we need to look back and maybe in our own children, their teenagers, their friendship, dig in, talk to the teenagers. What's going on? What does this mean? Why is this the issue? If that comes out to be a part of the investigation or the facts, but so far nothing of the sort has come.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a sickness, folks. This is a sickness that some in our community have, and we gotta get this out. We gotta find some type of cure for this, because it's bringing us down, and it's allowing us to be manipulated. Because as you mentioned, Shelley and Nicole, you both mentioned this. These parents are grieving, okay? Mm-hmm. They are mourning the loss of their son, all right? And honestly, we do need to get to the bottom of this, okay? But only focusing on the racial narrative that's not there, there's no evidence going towards that, it can also hinder the real investigation from getting completed, okay? As we were just talking about how people are focused so much on the racial narratives around police, and they're always focused on that, when the real issue in our community is black on black crime. There you go. Nobody wants to talk about that because you have the race hustlers like this high yellow bitch. Yeah, you want to talk about race? This is a high yellow bitch. Yep, I said it. Whatever. And because she's nasty.
She is.
And she is, people like her are what continues to keep us from getting to the root cause of the issues in our community. So,
and you know what else, KJ? Here's a hard truth that I think parents and uncles and aunties and all of this have a hard time recognizing. Children don't have a hard time with race. Note, him and his black friends got white friends, and everybody gets along and everybody's doing their thing. It's only when we interject race into what they consider their culture that makes it a bigger problem.
Absolutely.
Again,
it's a learned behavior.
It is absolutely a learned behavior. Our antenna goes up. The generations before us, if there's a black kid that dies and there was a white kid on the block, it was racist. Somebody did something. And it's the go-to position that really shields people from learning the absolute truth. And I'm not saying there wasn't something nefarious. It could have happened. It couldn't have not happened. But at least let's get the facts out before we come with that broad brush of racism and painting whole communities into something that they're not. Note, when you look at the pictures from them going out on this boat ride, He's sitting with 3 or 4 of his white friends, and somebody's drinking. You know, he's got his arm on somebody's leg and somebody's got their arm around him. These kids don't think the way that we think. So we have got to stop bringing what we believe are our good sensibilities and intentions, because they're not, to situations that we're clearly not understanding. Let's get some understanding first. And then if we want to go ahead and pull out the New Negro Network and Al Sharpton and Ben Crump and all these other folks, then we can roll out the old Negro preachers and sing Negro spirituals and feel some kind of way. But first, let's get to the truth before they have a chance to cover it up and distort it. And this family gets no peace, or in some cases, justice for the death of their child.
Absolutely. Absolutely, folks. Sound off in the chat. Let us know what you all think. Also, outside of this story, I want to hear you guys in the chat share some of your interracial relationships. You know, and I'm not just talking about love relationships, but friends that you have that are outside of your race. You know, how do you deal with issues that come up? Are you automatically jumping to race as the motive, as the issue? Or do you go deeper and figure out, you know, well, this isn't, do you automatically do that, or is this something else? I'm curious as to how you guys navigate those relationships. Sound off. Let us know what you think. All right. As you come in, folks, please hit that like button. All right. We have over 500 people watching. We want to make sure we get the likes up because we want this video to get out to a wider audience, folks, because at the end of the day, you guys know it. This channel is about Americans. All right, we are Americans first before anything. Not black, not white American. We actually have a t-shirt that says that, okay, and merch that says that. This is what we are about here, all right? We're about bringing the country together, okay? Because the left and globalists are trying to tear us apart from within. This is what they want to happen. And unfortunately, many of us are falling for it. We cannot. This is why we talk about these issues, these particular issues on here. We want to shed light. We want to shed truth, come together as God-fearing, truth-seeking, America-loving people that value freedom. That's what it's all about with us. All right. Speaking of that, we got to talk about this next video. So, folks, not just us, but many conservatives, we are the ones willing to have uncomfortable conversations with leftists. And guess what? People are actually waking up.